Hello, hello, welcome again to Otaku-Verse Zero. I'm your host, Patrick Macias, and today we are at Meiji University in Tokyo, one of the nation's most prestigious colleges. And it's here that you will find an incredible 7-story building known as the Yoshihiro Yonezawa Memorial Library of Manga and Subculture. And inside you'll find an incredible collection that basically charts out the entire post-war history of Japanese comics and publications. So I'm ready to go inside and check it out. Let's go. Now we're on the second floor of the library, which is the reading room, and it's here you can just come in and grab a book off the shelf and have a seat and take a look at it. There's not just manga here or manga magazines, but also books about manga, including 3 written by Yonezawa-san himself about the history of post-war science fiction manga, girls comics, and gag comics. And to access the library, which is available to foreigners provided they bring some form of identification proving they're older than 18 years of age, because some of the material here can get a little spicy, shall we say. Memberships are available for 1 day, 1 month, and 1 year. But if you go over a month, you have the right to access the database and bring out items of great antiquity from the deeper collection here in the library. But if you just want to come in for 1 day and read some manga, you can do that too. And another fun thing about the reading room are the drawing, the shikishi, the signboards on them with illustrations from very famous mangaka such as Ampan Man, drawn by Takashi Yanase, and Game Center Arashi by Mitsudo Sugaya. And even French comic artist Mobius is represented here in the reading room. Okay, so right now we're in a storage space devoted to items on loan from Comic Market. Each one of these boxes contains about 440 pounds worth of material from the most recent Comic Market. And let's see if I can do the math now. There's about 500 boxes here in all, each one containing 440 pounds, so that equals about 10 tons, or 2 elephants, or 10 pickup trucks. Take your pick. That is a lot of fan-created comics and publications in doujinshi. Part of the fun of checking out the Comic selection at the library is seeing not only how Comic Market has developed, but doujinshi, fan-created publications and comics have evolved. This is kind of a doujinshi the way we sort of think of them today, sort of a thin pamphlet, you know, kind of beautifully printed. But it looks like, according to this box, back in the day, this is what a doujinshi looked like. This incredibly thick book, hand-bound, looks like beautifully drawn black and white comics, and it's bound and the paper is the actual drawing paper, very thick, which makes for one huge thick book, and it's the actual original artist's artwork here, meaning this is an incredible one-of-a-kind book, quite a work of art. And this entire box here is filled with these beautiful hardcover fan-created doujinshi. Beautiful stuff. So now we're on the 5th floor, which is where the library keeps its collection of tankobon, graphic novels of the serialized story that appear in the weekly and monthly comic magazines in Japan. And there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of them here, basically the entire history of post-war Japanese comics laid out. I'm just going to randomly grab something off the shelf here. Oh, Urusei Yatsura by Rumiko Takahashi. And in fact, I'd say at least 1/3 of this shelf is just dedicated to Rumiko Takahashi titles alone. And I could just stay here all day and just grab them off the shelf and read them. Also on the 5th floor, you'll find a selection of titles from smaller publishers. And I think it's basically through these that you can get a sense of the incredible variety of manga over the years. Just grabbing some stuff off the shelf, we've got plastic surgery stories. Always a fun thing to read in the bathroom, I guess, or at the barber's office. And then we've got Steiki na Marriage, Wonderful Marriage comics, 716-page collection of wonderful marriage stories. But then marriage might get kind of strange, and so we have Mystery Marriage. And of course, the tragic last stop in the Tunnel of Love, Divorce, but of course there's manga for that too. This is Divorce Deluxe, about 1,000 pages of people breaking up, and as the tagline on the cover says, tomorrow we'll be happy. So we're inside the lobby of the library now, and I'm here with Mr. Kaiichiro Morikawa, associate.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And he's an associate professor at Meiji University. And Morikawa-san, what kind of person was Yonezawa, and how did he get this incredible collection?
Well, he was a manga critic, as well as the co-founder of the comic market. He was the representative of the comic market committee for around 25 years, and saw to its vast growth into this colossal event. And he was also this colossal collector of manga magazines and books, as well as subculture-related materials.
Okay, this case on my right is incredible because it shows in miniature form basically the entire post-war history of the evolution of manga, beginning with the early children's books, very old akahon or red books, kind of pulp magazines for kids in the post-war era. And then here we have book supplements from the boys' magazines. It looks like we're in about the mid-60s now. And you can see the influence of kind of television on publications back then with the appearance of characters like Ultraman and Tetsujin Niju Hachigo. And then you can see things kind of get spicy with the appearance of the Gekiga, or the men's comic magazines, when things get a little erotic. I guess some of those kids began to grow up. And the industry, as it is today, awash in Moe-K, or Moe magazines, and BL-K, or Boys Love magazines. So to give you an understanding of what Japanese subculture looks like, it's probably a good idea to look in some of the display cases here as part of Yonezawa's personal collection. Here are bodybuilding magazines, looks like from the 50s on up, including Body Bill magazine, the Japanese edition of Muscle Power and Muscle Builder magazine. We've got some early Japanese science fiction books here, including what look like Japanese editions of the classic Amazing Stories science fiction magazine. Over here, SF and mystery supplements, which I guess came with magazines. You get a smaller book containing exciting, thrilling stories about clowns abducting women and motorcycle chases and stuff like that. And down here we've got kind of the more spicy and risque pulp-style magazines filled with gossip, detective stories, and women without their clothes on. So we're standing here next to a model of, I guess, one day in the life of comic market here, which happens twice a year, annually, in Japan. I believe it began in 1975, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and I believe this winter was the 79th comic market. And can you kind of just briefly explain what we're looking at here and how this all works out with the color coordination and stuff?
Well, actually, this is a concept model of the comic market. This is just a portion of the whole thing. The whole thing is about 5 times as large as this model. The entire model was made to be displayed at the International Architectural Exposition at the Venice Biennale in 2004. It was titled the Otaku Exhibition. And the comic market right now collects about 35,000 circles in 3 days and about 550 participants in those 3 days.
And I'm guessing things are broken up by genre according to color.
Yeah.
This would be black for...
This is for the Shonen Jump parody type comics.
Wow, that's almost like half the display here. Red is for, what, other media, celebrities?
Well, this is mainly targeted for female participants.
Okay. And the green?
Those are original comics.
I see.
For girls.
Okay, and blue?
Well, those are, well, boys love type of parodies.
Interesting. Okay, and this display case is really incredible because it shows you how just the comic market itself has evolved over the years. These look like some of the very first catalogs for comic market, which give you a guide to follow all the latest developments in the circles. It looks like there's one here where there's probably only a couple of hundred participants, I guess for year number 27. And they're just very, very thin pamphlets. Do you know what the attendance figures were like back in the early days of Comic Market?
At the beginning, there were only about 700 participants.
Wow. Okay, and here are the catalogs, it looks like, since the 37th entry, so we're going back, several decades now, and you see they've grown in size to these, incredible phone book size proportions. Each page filled with, at least 20 or so individual circles advertising their wares and showing you on the map where you can buy their doujinshi or their fan-made publications and comics. And what's really cool about these is the way they all line up to form one continuous picture, featuring such familiar copyrighted characters such as Sailor Moon, Chun-Li from Street Fighter, we've got the gang from Pokemon, and Cardcaptor Sakura. So now we're here on the 4th floor of the library, and it's here that you will find the collection of the magazines, the weekly and monthly manga magazines like Sunday or Shonen King, girls magazines like Margaret, and so forth and so on. And this is as good a place as any to just have a few words here with Morikawa-sensei. And if you could please tell me about your relationship with Yonezawa-san, and how did you get involved with this project?
Well, I showed you the model of the comic market below. I was trying to curate this exhibition about otaku culture. And to build an exhibition about otaku culture, I definitely needed the cooperation of the Comic Market Committee. So I went off to the committee. He was the representative in those days. And we shared visions about what they could do for my exhibition, and we reached an agreement, and they produced this wonderful model plus some display of doujinshis, and that's how our relation began.
Mm-hmm. Okay, as far as the library's collection, what are some of the most remarkable and rare items housed here at the library?
Well, I'll show you upstairs. They're stored up in a secret hideout.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Okay, very exciting. Not only is it the manga library, but it's also a library of subculture. So what is the Japanese definition of subculture? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it differs from, time to time, or the context. Generally refers to culture which is not authorized or of authority.
Okay, and how would you put that in relation to manga? Manga being something here that we often see from major publishers. What do manga and subculture have in common? Why would you group them together?
Well, manga, comic books, comic strips, animation, television games, these weren't supposed to be traditionally called authorized or decent culture. They used to be mainly for children. There were, of course, comic strips for adults, but they weren't of the same class as art, as in, art museums or musical concerts. They were the traditional, authorized type of culture.
Mm-hmm. And I'm interested, if that's the case, how did Meiji University become interested in subjects like manga and subculture and supporting this library? What do they see as the value of studying this sort of material?
Well, there are two aspects, actually. Although it is subculture, it's also the mainstream popular culture of Japan, especially manga. If you enter a bookstore in Japan, every bookstore would have shelves of about 30 to 50% of the store lined up with comic books and magazines. So as the history grew from the post-war era to nowadays, mangas and anime grew to be a kind of mirror reflection of Japanese citizens and their lifestyle. They are important materials, even in academic fields, when you wanted to study how the Japanese evolved or grew out of the post-war era, and how they enjoy their lives, what their interests are.
Okay, and another huge component of the library here are the doujinshi, and I'm curious about, it seems like every year the comic market gets bigger and bigger. What do you think is responsible for this kind of intense fan culture to want to create original comics and publications?
Well, it's a great festival, so to say, and it's fun to get together with people who share the same taste. And although there are many kinds of doujinshi events in Japan, I would say that the comic market would be the broadest or the widest of those events, welcoming the broadest array of the most minor of tastes and interests. That's how it grew.
Okay, and just off the record, could you give us a sampling of some of the more offbeat things that one can find in doujinshi?
Well, maybe you can find doujinshis which are focused on, well, the acutest of sexual interests.
I see.
And of course, collecting things like glasses, how people fantasize about, well, all sorts of fetishes.
Okay.
Everything can be found mainly in comic market.
I see. I see.
It's like the Google in event form, so to say.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks very much. Okay, so now we're in the secret room, the honeycomb hideout at the Library of Manga and Subculture, and Morikawa Sensei has graciously allowed us to the inner sanctum to show us some of the incredible, truly incredible treasures he has here.
The collection is such a, like, well, you might know this.
Oh goodness, it looks like early concept art for the Valkyrie VF1J from Macross. And one thing I'd like to point out right away is this is not the final design. The gun in the show is different, and I'm sure some of you Macross fans already knew that, of course.
This is the earlier designs.
Earlier concept designs from Macross, probably drawn by mecha designer Shoji Kawamori himself.
Yes, that's right.
What else is in there?
Well, here's more.
Pencil layouts from Nausicaa, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah. And this is, I suppose, one of the earliest concepts from the Valkyrie designs.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I did not have the missiles popping out of all the crevices in his body in the final version. Head designs. This is just animation history. The real deal. Okay, I think I know what this is.
Well, of course, you know what this is. It's one of our collections, also to be displayed at the, well, what we are planning as a museum of the manga, anime, and games. Have a try?
Yeah, sure. I got my 100 yen piece right here. No shortage of them now. All right, we got one credit. Here we go. We're gonna save the Earth from alien invasion. There we go. Incredible lifelike color. Uh-oh. How good are you at this, Morikawa Sensei, if I can ask?
Well, I was quite good. I used to be.
You don't stay up here all day and try to beat your all-time best?
That's how I'll spend my life as I get great.
I see.
Retire.
I see. I want that UFO.
Wow, great.
Okay. Gotta get that rapid fire going. Can't win them all. We've got 2 more lives. Every shot counts. Every second counts. No! This is getting too stressful. All right, the end. Game over. So that about wraps up our episode for this week. Be sure to send your questions and comments to our email address, and keep supporting the show. Add us to your favorites, tell your friends about us, and whatnot. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Otaku-Verse Zero. Thanks for watching.